Only a week ago I made an earnings preview for Novo Nordisk stock, and I said that after the earnings we could see a slight dip, but after the stock of this company should start behaving positively again. If you want to know why, you can go and check out my previous video, but today I actually came bearing good news for the stock of this company. And I'm sure if you are a Novo Nordisk investor, you would really like to hear that, as the stock of this company is down almost 20% in the last months, after it had already been down by a lot only in 2025. So we've actually got many developments that worth discussing. The earnings actually went by and we have new results for the company. They were not bad. They were actually pretty much what was expected, and the guidance was cut slightly, but the stock did not react as negatively as it could have, because the stock had been beaten down so much. There is not much downside you could still see for the stock of this company. Let's begin with, in my opinion, a good piece of news: the deal that Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly made with Trump's administration. And I am on purpose not getting to the earnings results because, well, there is nothing that could have surprised investors by that much. So I think in general the story is much more important here than the numbers. I rarely say so because usually I am heavily focused on numbers, but here I think Novo Nordisk had been majorly oversold, and I really want to make a case to bring the narrative first and then to basically back it with the numbers by the end of this video. So overlooking the deal, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk agreed to slash their prices for their weight loss treatments in order to allow regular Americans to be able to buy these products. The cuts are supposed to be major because the government promises that the cost for the dose of the treatment will vary between $150 and $350 a month, and right now the number is at about $1,200. So this is a huge difference, and this could definitely boost the demand for the product. Now, of course, you could say that, wait, but will the companies actually still be profitable? Will they still be making money? And how they can be selling their products for so cheap? So the answer is the companies will be much better off, because on the other side of the deal, Trump agreed to add the obesity treatment back to Medicaid and Medicare programs, which is a huge deal for both of these companies. Right now, the demand for the treatment that they are seeing is basically a drop in the ocean of what it could have been if people would be able to buy this with the insurance. And also, besides, those patients, those customers that are not eligible for getting the treatment from their healthcare provider, they could actually go and buy this treatment for themselves for $350 from Trump RX, and this would also boost the demand. Basically, right now, what we're seeing is that the majority of people that will need the treatment will be able to get it, because up until now, I would say a very, very small percentage of people could have actually paid $1,000 per month, or sometimes even more, to buy this type of medicine. So this is definitely a tailwind. And by the way, about the Novo Nordisk, I also heard a rumor that they could be eligible for 3 years exemption from the tariffs, and if so, this is huge, because the price for Novo Nordisk stock is so low because investors already priced in all of the uncertainties that could happen in the future. And I have actually found a very nice piece of calculation from my colleague on Seeking Alpha. Before this, he had a calculation about the total addressable market for Novo Nordisk before the prices were slashed. And this is interesting to see. You could read it on your screen. But at the same time, I would hope that the deal with Trump will actually go through and they will not pull it back, and so these numbers could be less relevant right now. So let's jump straight to the other scenario where the prices are actually really cheap but the demand is there. So according to this calculation from this article, for the pricing of $250 per month, it's about $3,000 a year. Total addressable market is still at about $40 billion. And if we suppose that Novo Nordisk actually gets a 30% share of that market, that's about $122 billion a year. And that's crazy. That's an enormous number. And right now, Novo Nordisk as a company makes about $11 billion in a quarter. So basically about 40 something billion dollars a year. But that's Novo Nordisk as a company, as a huge, huge company. And here we're talking about only the obesity treatment part. Also, this calculation doesn't add the fact that probably if the deal goes through and if both sides basically agree and people start getting the treatments through Medicare, Medicaid, insurance, they will be able to buy it for affordable price. I think $150 to $350 is pretty affordable price for most Americans. So most likely there will no space for compounders of the market. And compounders right now take still a huge, huge piece of the market share for both of these companies, for Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly. So jumping to the earnings results, we could see that sales went up by about 12%, which isn't bad, but at the same time it's slightly lower than for Eli Lilly. At the same time, an interesting number here is actually gross margin, which shrank compared to the first 9 months of 2024, but at the same time it's still at incredible levels. Like right now, gross margin of Novo Nordisk is at 81%. So those of you who were worried how will the company stand the reduce of the pricing, well, the answer is pretty easily. Of course, the company will see shrinking gross margins, but if the demand will be growing and growing by a lot, the company will be ramping up the production. The company will start producing in the US, and this could be another major catalyst for this company. And besides, the company will also have this oral version of the treatment soon, and this could also help by a lot, also with the demand and also with the gross margins. Operating margin shrank by about 3%, which isn't a great piece of news, but together with all of the headwinds and difficulties that the company was going through, this is still a wonderful levels to be in for the company like this. So I wouldn't say that this is actually a place to worry about the company, especially right now that the company started making layoffs. Basically, they are trying to get more efficient. I would really like to see how it goes, because it's possible that the company will be very well off together with all of the positive catalysts and together with the fact that all of the headwinds that investors already priced in, they don't look so negative. So basically it looks like Novo Nordisk has been heavily oversold. And to see this for yourself, I suggest opening a couple of graphs that I created on Seeking Alpha together with the Y chart. And here you will see that Novo Nordisk revenue had been growing incredibly, and the revenue growth actually in the last 5 years is still in line with Eli Lilly. Of course, right now, if we take the last 3 years or 2 years, Eli Lilly wins. But still, Novo Nordisk isn't in the bad place. The revenues are slowing, the growth is slowing, but I wouldn't say that this is the definition of the future of the company. I am not sure that the company won't be able to ramp up the revenue growth. And to tell you quite the opposite, I think that if the company will be eligible for exemption from the tariffs, and if it will start being included in the Medicare and Medicaid, it might push the revenues of the company so much higher than they are right now. Another thing we should take a look at, of course, gross profit, because we already said that gross profit margins are shrinking, but still you should see that in general the company isn't in the bad place. The company does not as good as Eli Lilly, so the company deserves to be cheaper than Eli Lilly in the valuation wise. But at the same time, the company doesn't do bad. The company still holds up pretty well, and especially if we account for all of the problems that the company has been facing. So now I suggest you take a look at these two graphs, like one next to another, and see for yourself this funny thing. Novo Nordisk is doing very well, worse than it was doing, but still pretty good for the times it's being in. At the next graph, you see the PE ratio of Novo Nordisk. Basically, it had been going down by so much, and also the difference between Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk is enormous. Don't forget that this is the company that still makes more than 10 billion, even 11, 12 billion dollars a quarter. This is a company that has more than $200 billion in market cap. This is a company that has enormous cash flows. This company has a lot of money. This company has huge possibilities. The profitability of Novo Nordisk is amazing. It's just incredible. When you open the tab, you will see A+ on all of the metrics: net income margin, gross profit margin, EBIT margin, return on total capital, return on invested capital. Basically, the company is doing so good, but at the same time, it trades so cheap. By the valuation metrics, we see PE of less than 13 when the sector median is 24. The sector is pharma, and well, I could argue that Novo Nordisk is one of the best pharma companies today that we have on the market. So it's actually beyond me how it can be twice cheaper than the sector, while it's one of the biggest, one of the most famous, and one of the most progressive companies in this sector. I would, of course, love to hear your opinion about the stock of this company. I see it's about 1.5% up as I'm recording this video today on Tuesday pre-market. I really hope that the market recognizes this opportunity really soon, but on the other hand, if the market doesn't recognize this opportunity, I will be just buying the stock of this company, because even after the layoffs, even after the tariffs, the problems, the shrinking margins, this company is just amazing. This company has a lot more to show. This company has many positive catalysts in sight, and I genuinely don't think that something major will happen with the stock of this company. So I will be adding more shares, and I would really like to hear what would you do, or what are you doing right now. Thank you so much for being with me. I'll see you on our channel next time. Happy investing.